It's Tuesday, March the 29th, 2022. Thanks for hanging out with us here as we want to get you set up for some Wednesday action at Sam Houston. My good friend Matt DeSantis joins me. Matt, buddy, I'm surprised you're not sick of me by now. I mean, we talk so often nowadays, right? How you doing?
I'm doing well, but I've taken your advice. I've not gone on a road trip with you yet.
Yeah,
you said you'll get sick of me if we're on a road trip
from
together.
A distance, we're good. From a distance, you get the perfect amount of Gino, right? But then afterwards, it's going to be a little overkill, right? Matt, hope you've had a good weekend. This is such a cool time. I was just thinking right now in sports in general, racing. It's a lot of fun because we're like that last final prep for the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. So we're really getting to see. We just had the Dubai World Cup. There's a lot of big stuff happening. But then just think about everything in sports right now. We are Final Fours coming up this weekend in college basketball.
Absolutely.
NFL and baseball have had all this crazy free agency news, major trades, players moving all over the place. We got the NBA. It's the final 10 games of the season. We've got, as I mentioned, all that great stuff happening in the world of horse racing. And, hockey is getting set for the playoffs right now. Also, it's just...
And my favorite event in sports is coming up in 2 weeks, which is
Masters.
A tradition unlike any other.
The Masters.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this part of the year, and then in October, when you've got football and college football, and you're getting ready for the Breeders' Cup, you've got college basketball just starting, you got the NBA starting, you got the baseball playoffs. That it all, like, to me, those are the 2 points of the year where it's just awesome. And, so much great stuff coming up this week in particular. So, Matt, before we jump in, because we're going to look at the Sam Houston card, they've only got 7 days left of racing.
Crazy.
Two more weeks, and we love Sam Houston over there because they have that low takeout, that 12% takeout for all of their multi-race exotics. Doubles, pick threes, pick fours, pick fives, pick six, all low takeout, which makes it so nice for us as handicappers. We can go through the whole card. We don't have to feel forced into the early pick five because that's the low takeout one.
Right.
You can really jump in. And I think just from kind of gauging, Stable Duel has had a lot of Sam Houston contests this year. I feel like this probably has been the most you've looked at Sam Houston or close to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it is. And I'll speak just not for myself, but for my dad. I mean, he almost never played. He was kind of a California guy, that's where he went to law school. And so he, and he lives in the East Coast now. So he's really been focused on NYRA and California for pretty much so his, most of his time. But since getting into Stable Duel, he will be the first one to tell you that his favorite track to do now is Sam Houston. He loves playing Sam Houston. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great track. I think, those of us who have been paying attention this whole season, there's a lot of great angles to play. There's a lot of great jockey trainer combos to play. It's a really deep jockey colony. So there's a lot of just, I think, fun angles to approach with this one. So yeah, looking forward to this card and sad that this season's ending, but I know we're going to probably move to Lone Star for a couple contests in Stable Duel as well. So we'll still stay in the state of Texas.
Yeah, the Texas racing has gotten so much better over the last couple of years. We talked about it too. We didn't have to sugarcoat it when we spoke with a lot of their guests on my show or different shows, and that, for a while there wasn't a lot of money being put into the racing. And then now, boom, they had a great bill passed in the legislature a few years ago, and they put a bunch of money right into the purses, right into the HD broadcast, the equipment, and you could see year by year by year, it just gets more and more and more people are invested. They're betting, and it's a ton of fun. We mentioned the Stable Duel contest. Matt, want to just pull up a couple cool things about Stable Duel. So thanks for hanging out with us. We'll get into the full card in just a minute or two. But we wanted to show because this weekend is one of those big prep weekends. Heck, I even forgot about WrestleMania. I got my Miz t-shirt on right now. WrestleMania's coming up this weekend. So another big event in the world of sports and entertainment there. So Stable Duel for this weekend, Matt, is going to have a massive contest on Saturday. Let's take a little dive into the contest schedule and pull it up right here. You and I and our friend Barry Spears, we do a weekly show. It's normally on Friday mornings. This week, we're going to do it on Thursday evening because I'm heading to a bachelor party this weekend. So you guys are helping me out.
I think I'm the only one being responsible this weekend. You're going to a bachelor party. Barry's going down to Miami for the Florida Derby. I'm just hanging out in 20-degree weather in Northern Virginia. This sucks.
Exactly.
I don't know how I got the short straw, but all right.
We will hang out on Friday or Thursday night at about 8:00 Eastern time, and we're going to run through the Saturday card for Gulfstream because that's an awesome card. But look, all throughout the week, if you want on Wednesday, we're going to talk about Sam Houston. There's a $25 game there for $2,000. Thursday, you've got Gulfstream, Sam Houston, and Charlestown. Then on Friday, you've got Gulfstream, Tampa, Laurel, Santa Anita, Sam Houston. You've got 5 tracks, 8 contests. There's a free ride, games ranging from $3 all the way up to $250. And then the Saturday Florida Derby game, $60 to enter, $40,000 prize pool, Matt. That's
massive.
Huge.
Massive. I mean, for a $60 pay-in, that is a huge, huge price pool. When they've had weeks like this before, whether it was for the Tampa Bay Derby, whether it was for and that Sam F. Davis weekend, whether it was for the Fountain of Youth, the Holy Bull, they've been great contests to play. And Pegasus was a really big weekend, and I can just say that those were profitable weekends for me. And if you know how to handicap a card, it's a lot of fun. And those big weekends, we've talked about this before on the show a little bit. Those big weekends are so much fun because there's so many cards. There are so many races on a card. You're never forced into picking a horse in every race. You can really pick and choose your spots. And I love that.
Let me say this. It sounds weird. It's easier to build your lineup. Now, it's not easier to win, right? But as far as putting your lineup together, it's harder on some days when there's less options and there's shorter fields.
Trust me, I just finished my stable for Penn National. That was damn near impossible.
Right?
It's because it was a 5-horse field and the cheapest horse is $5,000. And I'm just like,
every race. So that way you can't even spend up because you're having to pick horses that you don't even love and spend that much to begin with. So it's easier to build your lineup. You just got to be right. Right. Yeah. It's harder because more people are playing. It's for bigger money. But as far as you feeling confident about your opinion, it's a little bit easier to maneuver. So that's coming up this weekend. And then before we dive in, one more thing, Stable Duel's actually, and today we're going to go through all, this isn't even going to be like a Stable Duel focused live stream, but I just wanted to make sure to give Stable Duel some love because they're doing something really cool too, where they've got a get paid to be social promotion happening. So they just really want to make sure that this weekend, this contest is a big one. They want to really promote it. They want there to be more money for everyone out there to get involved, to take a swing. So what they're doing is they're offering a bonus, a popularity prize to the most engaging social account to promote the game. And they're giving money based on creativity, quality of content, and then likes, shares, comments, because some of us aren't going to get 1 million likes, shares, comments, but we can do some funny, good stuff out there, right? We can create some good content. So
absolutely, I got some ideas in my back pocket. So,
big weekend, weekend coming up with our friends at Stable Duel, and a couple of big weeks that remain trying to close out the meet at Sam Houston. Let's dive on into race number 1. The early pick 4 starts in race 2, but you can play those low takeout doubles, pick 3s, or nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned win, play, show wager. And Matt, we begin on March the 30th for Wednesday with a 6-furlong sprint on the dirt. We've got fillies, 3 years old, non-winners of 2 here. So tell us a little bit about race number 1, and we'll get these past performances.
Yeah, it's an interesting race. So you got it's a 6-horse field. I think there's some intriguing horses in this one. I mean, there's an Asmussen horse, the number 4 horse, Lady Abril, who I think is probably going to get overbet a little bit. I'm actually kind of fading this horse a little bit.
I agree.
Number 4. I think this is a horse that really stepped down in class to get that win, and is now stepping back up from a maiden 10 to a 25 claimer, and going against winners for the first time. I don't like that. And also stretching out in distance. So I'm a little worried about that as well. So I'm kind of out on the Asmussen horse. And the horse that I'm intrigued by is the Diodoro horse on the outside, the 6. Because this is a horse that the Viva El Capitan, this is a horse that broke its maiden, had 4.5 furlongs, came back, ran a stakes race, and something clearly went wrong. The horse was eased up, basically finished 26 lengths off the pace, takes an incredibly long layoff, 7 months, comes back at Sam Houston.
And this is the race we're going to watch last time out. Viva El Captain was the 1. So drew the rail. And, you get the hesitation right there.
Yep.
You're in a little bit tight, and then you start to travel well, but what's going to happen? Oh, you're going to run right up onto the heels.
Yep. You're going to run right up on the heels, and you're asking this horse to go after 7 months of this horse not going. This horse is going to get gassed. And that's exactly what happened. And so that was at a 50,000 optional claimer. Now we're dropping down to a 25 claimer, non-winners of 2.
Right here, look, this just no shot. Like the horse is in front of you, just backing up right into the 1. They don't even get an opportunity to ask this horse for anything. They literally just have to wrap him up. Where are you supposed to go? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah. And so now you're on the far outside post, and you can, you're going to have such an easier time. I think this is a horse at 4-1 gives you a little bit of value in this race. And so I like seeing that Viva El Capitan
inside out, second start off the 7-month break. You're going to drop in class. The winner of that race also, I didn't finish the end of the race, but so Speedometer, who went gate to wire, won that race by 6+.
Yeah.
Right. So when a horse crushes like that too, a lot of times everything that happens behind, you don't really know. It's just like a monster effort from the winner that day. Yeah. Others that are kind of fun to mention. I agree with you. I'm not that high on the 4, Lady Avril, mainly because she broke in. She kind of got bumped at the start. She recovered well. But the thing that I was the most impressed with, it was a fantastic ride. There was a moment where she was moving up the inside. I might as well show it while we got it here. And
we got the technology. We might as well show the people.
We got the opportunity to show it. Might as well. So, and that's why it's weird to say it was such a great ride. I'm going to hold it against Lady Avril this time, right? But watch the 4 here, Lady Avril, and Lady Avril kind of broke in and bumped a little bit. And there's this moment right about here where, okay, this is the do or die moment, right?
Yep.
Lady Avril's on the inside. Are you going to go or are you going to take back and get shuffled? And right there, how many times do we see horses just happen, right? Where they get crossed over, but instead he just says, you know what? I'm going to go.
Yep.
And he shoves through, and right here, boom, he won the race.
Yep.
Just by getting to this point where he's not getting pushed inside. Now, again, is that something to hold against? No, but that very easily could have been, this horse gets shuffled and then runs 4th in here.
Yep.
Yep. So awesome. Wanted to give some credit to Joel Dominguez because I thought that was a really, really good ride there because that won the race.
Yeah, that was a really good ride. I mean, guys, you're right. I can't tell you the number of times. Yeah, I'm screaming at my television.
You're like, go! You see it, then you kind of grab a hold, and you're like, no, we're in trouble.
I will mention, it's too bad that she drew the inside post because I do kind of like the one.
I agree.
Tay-Tay's Baby. It's a horse that broke its maiden and then stepped up against non-winners of 2 at a 15 claimer and ran really well and just finished the length back. Just kind of lost a little bit of ground at the end, kind of put her nose ahead initially. And then, like I said, lost a little bit of ground. The other thing I'll do is I'll just shout out Renee Diaz, who's a guy who, if you've not been on the Sam Houston circuit, you probably don't know anything about because he's not been running, but he was the top apprentice jock at Fairgrounds this past season. And so he's coming in and racing and running some horses for Austin Gustafson and some other pretty big trainers this weekend at Sam Houston. So even though you might not know the name, he's a pretty good jockey. And he's somebody who I've spoken to some people in the industry, all have very high opinions of him. Very capable guy. So don't be put off by a horse that you see him on just, because you're not going to have any Sam Houston stats for him. But like I said, very capable jockey on some nice horses today.
And Tay-Tay's Baby sort of moved into it, got a nice opening.
Yep.
And ended up, it was a perfect sort of trip and but just finished 3rd behind the 6-5 and the 8-5 horses.
Right.
They were just a little bit better. And honestly, there's really no shame. Both of them were dropping in class. You could see Circleback Girl was coming out of better, was coming out of an optional 50, non-2, and Ochita was coming out of a non-2 allowance also. So that wasn't an easy spot for the 1. I agree. The rail isn't the greatest. I mean, even the 2, I thought was semi-interesting. Sangria City. I like the win. It looked good. Yeah. Good start, 3 wide, 3 deep, move to the lead. You see Speedometer. You see ran pretty well at Will Rogers. I think finished second at Will Rogers in the race against maiden special weight. So, yeah, that was, that was an interesting. It's just the rail for the 1, the 2 being down on the inside there.
Yeah.
Of the shorter price horses, like I think I'm more okay with the 5 than the 4.
Yeah.
I prefer.
Yeah. No, I think so. I mean, the 5 is a very good horse. I mean, we haven't talked about it, but it's,
super logical.
It's super logical. And, Goncalves is a nice jockey. And this horse showed progress after coming back from the layoff. So now this is the 3rd race off the layoff. You saw a pretty marked improvement the last time out. And so, no, this horse makes a lot of sense. But if you're trying to find some value underneath, I think you can look maybe
6?
at the 6.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
That's where I would go.
Yeah, the 6. I had the 6 Viva El Captain on top, and Becky's Tattoo. One thing I always like to look at, if you can, like if you're playing the common rival game, Becky's Tattoo finished in front of Thoughts and Prayers. That's Thoughts and Prayers pretty easily handled Little Diddy's Kitty. Just sort of comparing some of these horses that have common rivals. If you want to do that, I ended up stacking them 6, 5, 2. As horses to use. And then I have my question marks about the 1 and the 4 as sort of maybe underneath type horses, but not maybe shorter ones to play against. We're both seeming to land on the 6.
Yeah, I think so.
El Captain on the outside, second off the bench for Rye and Robertino dropping in class. Had some sneaky trouble last time out. Should be forwardly placed in here. Let's get the 6 horse home as we move along to race number 2. So this one will kick off the early pick 4. Matt, these are $7,500 open claimers just to field the 6, but a pretty contentious group. Again, you can make a case for most in here. I think the 4 and the 6 are the 2 Broberg runners who will likely take a bunch of money, you would assume. Mostly Awesome was facing $15,000 beaten claimers last time out. And then you've got the 6 Bind Me Up, who faced the open 5 claimers over at Delta. They'll take a lot of money, but I mean, it could be spread out a little bit. You got the 3 Too Much Irish, who is also getting some class relief. Then you've got the 1 who's stepping up in class, but it's Asmussen and Stuart Elliott, and a horse that's won 3 of their last 4.
And I like the 1 here in this spot. And I do think that, you always have to worry about the Asmussen Elliott horses getting overbet. So whatever value you see morning line is probably going to evaporate by the time you get to post. But this is a horse. What I like about this horse, yes, it's stepping up in class, but look what happens every other time this horse steps up in class. Competes, runs really well. How often when especially at this level, do you see a horse go from an N2L winning, goes to an N3L, finishes 8th? That happens all the time.
Those levels are a bigger deal than you realize, especially at
huge deal.
Like at the higher, it's funny. The lower the track, the lower level the track is, the bigger the deal that those drops are, because there's so many more low-level horses, right? The depth between a non-2 and a non-3 or an open claiming race and a restricted claiming race is massive. Whereas like on a bigger track, they may not be that big of a deal because there aren't that many lower-level horses at those tracks.
Exactly. And a lot of times they'll start running against each other, and you just start seeing a lot of the same horses in past performances. So this horse has just continuously stepped up in class and stepped up against a better caliber of horse kind of the last several times out, and just competes his neck off. So I like that at 9-2. I really like the value there on that horse. The one thing I will say about the what was the horse I was going to mention here really quick? Well, the one thing I will mention, and this is something to keep in mind when we're looking at some other races today, is the 3 with Too Much Irish. The horse has had a lot of success at state accredited or state level races. 3
races versus open company, the debut, and then the last 2, and not close in any of them. All of the successes against Texas breds.
And that's something to keep in mind when you're going through this card. Is there's a lot of horses, not just in this race in particular, but throughout the card, that are pretty short prices. And when you dig inside the PPs, you realize this horse has never done it outside of whether it's the Louisiana state bred, whether it's a Texas state bred, and now they're facing open company. And so a lot of times that's something I always try to pay a little bit of attention to. And so for that reason, I kind of like the 5 a little bit. Tasuke, or Tasuke, 6-1. This horse probably gives you the most value in the race. Lane Luzzy jumps on board, actually jumps off of the 3, Too Much Irish, to go on to Tsuke. This is a horse that's 7 for 12 hitting the board at this distance, 13 for 21 hitting the board on dirt, has faced open company regularly recently, and kind of holds its own. And so this is not the most difficult spot, maybe. I mean, I think this is a decent field, but I thought that Tsuke, maybe gives you a little bit of value, and a horse that at least has experience going a mile against open company at roughly this level. So
yeah, the outside horse Bind Me Up. I mean, there's not very much speed in here.
No,
on paper, I think this is the fastest horse. The Bind Me Up, and so I think just naturally she may just get to cruise out front a little bit more without a whole ton of pressure. And looking at this race where you have the 2 Broberg runners, I'd imagine that one of them is going to be more forwardly placed than the other. And maybe it's this one coming out of some of the sprints. It feels to me like the 4, I just think this horse is a lot better going longer. Yeah. If you look at her races going the mile, they just seem better. Like the 6.5 races, she doesn't really get going till late. And the races at a mile, she just shows a lot more tactical speed. So she should probably be forwardly placed here too. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see either of the Broberg runners. I'm thinking it maybe is the outside one that goes and this one sits a little bit, but I don't think they both go. And it's probably one of the 2 of them that ends up on the lead.
I agree. I think, you're right. I think probably the sprint class of the 6 probably pushes that one to the lead as well. And Rye. Yeah, I mean, Eichelberry's on the other one. I mean, that's Gustafson's top rider. So, I mean, that kind of gives you an impression of what they think of that horse, perhaps in comparison. And yeah, I mean, Rye's not going to get sucked into a speed duel with one of Gustafson's own horses. So, he'll take that.
I think you said Gustafson.
Broberg.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the 4 makes a lot of sense.
I think, I think Broberg's got a pretty strong hand here with those 2.
Yeah.
Just sort of maybe being able to dictate it. So if I'm playing early pick 4s, I like them. And the 1 is who I would throw in. I'd probably play the combinations of the 3 of them. Flower House is just sharp. And the last win was, I think, at least worth showing because she was heavily favored in that race, but it was one of those races where it didn't look like she was going to get there. She just did not have very much room at all. And was just able to get up. So we're going to be watching the 2, Flower House. And this was her 3rd win in her last 4. What I like is that she was off from April of 2021 to January. So in the race that she lost, it was her first start back in like 10 months. He needed that race. She still ran second and was good that day. And then since then, she's come back on February the 16th and won. And then this race. So we're seeing her tracking in a nice spot. She's settled inside. She's like 4th or 5th, but she's only about 2 lengths off. And she's traveling well. She's kind of in a tight spot, but she's holding her ground there pretty well. Like just holding position pretty nicely. And it's just one of those things, like we're saying, this could be the best trip or the worst trip.
Right. No, this is very much so. Yeah. Especially when they're that bunched up, when there's 4 of them that are that bunched up, you never know. Cause there's not a clear way to get outside if you need to angle out. And so, And the horse is keeping its head down nice. It's not throwing its head up, so it doesn't mind getting some dirt. And now you see, what is it? The 8 starting to come up behind, which makes it all the trickier if you're going to try to get outside.
Now you're pinned in everywhere.
Yep. Because you can't even go back.
You can't try to drop back and go around when you're pinned. So, because then you lose all your momentum. So now you're just sort of like, uh-oh. And now the 2's kind of dropping back even.
Yeah.
A little bit. And it's just like, oh, where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? Looking for room. Alter course. Boom. And then just slide right through.
That takes a lot of guts to be able to do that.
Wow. Just to get up late.
Yeah.
Very impressive. That was a really good ride there too. And that was Flower House, Stuart Elliott, who will give you a little bit of value in this race. A fun second race, not the biggest field in the world, but pretty contentious here in race number 2 to kick off your early pick 4. I think I was like 6-4-1, probably combinations of
I like that.
of those. Let's get to race number 3. Matt, we've got fillies and mares 4-year-olds and up, which have started for a claiming price of $7,500 or less in 2021, 2022, or a claiming price of $15,000. So I actually thought just one thing that I looked at right away. This is another tough race.
It's a very tough race.
It's contentious again because you got the 4, obviously, Take Charge Woman, who's won 3 in a row and is in fantastic form for Carl Broberg. Just beat open first level allowance company.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the horse to the outside in the 7, Pick Up the Phone, who actually beat a similar group last time out and is in really nice form right now also.
Yep.
You've got the 6, Light Up the Devil, who's got some decent races to go back to.
That's the long shot play for me in this race. I know this is not specifically for Stable Duel, but if you're playing Stable Duel horse, that's a click on it, $1,000, 10-1 horse. I love it.
Yep. So Light Up the Devil, most recently, if you look, was a winner back in July. And then since that win, she ran into Lady Ave 3 times in a row.
Yep.
And Lady Ave is really nice right now. Look at what Lady Ave has done. Lady Ave won 7 times in 2021, and she's won 3 of 4 times this year. And her lone defeat just came in a stakes race over the weekend in the $100,000 Yellow Rose.
Yep.
And look who she lost to in that stakes race. The other horse who just beat Light Up the Devil, I'm a Discreet Lady.
Yeah.
So the 2 horses that she's been defeated by in her last 4 races, or 1-2 in the stakes. But look, she got beat by I'm a Discreet Lady again last year in the Yellow Rose.
Yep.
So she just keeps running into, unfortunately, some horses who might have been a little bit better than her. You see, there's I'm a Discreet Lady and Champagne Affair. They both came out of this race to win. I'm a Discreet Lady is your Yellow Rose winner. This horse is coming up on $500,000 in career earnings. And so now all of a sudden, what you're able to do in a race like this now, Matt, you're able to make excuses why these horse didn't run all that well in the last couple. And now it's like, oh, wait, she didn't even run all that poorly.
Right. No, she didn't run that poorly. And again, this is, the last time was second time out from a layoff. But that was also,
she had some trouble. Look at what happened. She's the one. She
had some trouble. Yep. She had some trouble. And again, that was a kind of a higher class of horse than what she's going to be facing here for the most part.
Yep.
So she's the 3.
No, she's the 1. She's the 1.
Sorry, yeah.
And she gets shuffled all the way back.
Yep.
She's in tight, and now she's back to last. You know, and now you're just in some trouble. Like you're in tough here against good horses, trying to come from last and trying to make. She's 14-1 in this race. And now you're going to try to come from dead last, where that's not her running style.
Nope.
She's always been much more of a presser, so that's one of those races where now you can just, put a line right through because she's got no shot there. 3rd start off the long layoff. She's getting some class relief right now. You get right now, heck, there aren't very many jockeys down at Sam Houston that Valdez Jimenez wouldn't be a jockey upgrade on.
Absolutely. No, he's a nice jock. And I just like the way this horse stacks up the best. When this horse is at her best, she's absolutely as good as just about anybody else in this field.
100%.
And so I don't at this value. I mean, I'm sure she'll get bet down, but this is really nice value for a horse that's really good. And even if you don't have her up top, she absolutely should be included in all your exotics, because I think this is a horse that is virtually a lock to hit the board. Polly Tiz, who's at 7-2. That's a horse that, again, we've talked about breaking from the inside post, always a little bit of a concern. Yeah. This is a horse that's consistent, but doesn't really win a lot at this level. And so certainly does not win as much as I would like to see for a horse that's at that odds.
And what concerns me a little bit is that you're going into the barn now, connections that have been like a little bit struggling at the meet, lots of minor awards, right? Yeah. So if you're talking about on the win end, it's like anything. I'm a baseball fan. Baseball is getting ready. Even the best go through these stretches where it's like everything they're hitting it right at someone, right? Or it's like you get up and you foul off, and then all of a sudden there's a strike on the corner that was a bad call, and you're down 0-2. Every time it's like it's 0-2 right when you get up, and that's what happens in these stretches where it's like you get in some trouble or you make that move and the hole closes. So I don't know if I'd want to take a shortish price on connections who are, on when someone's in their cold stretch.
Yeah. I mean, and you're going from a jockey who's winning at almost a 20% clip to one who's winning at a 4% clip this meet. I mean, it's just, there's a lot going against Polytiz, who's a horse, again, pretty consistent. I mean, you look at those past performances, whether it's turf or dirt, horse tends to turn in about the same performance every time out. But I just, in this spot, I just don't like it. So that starts to elevate some of those other horses like we've talked about. And so, I mean, this is one where, listen, Take Charge Woman, 8-5, the Eichelberry Broberg connection, obviously very strong, very consistent horse, top 2 in her last 5. Class shouldn't be an issue. 8 out of 9 finishes in the top 2 at Sam Houston, 7 for 8, hitting the board at this distance. I mean, very clearly and appropriately is the favorite. So I understand if people play that horse up top. But like we were both talking about, I think the 6 offers great value. It should absolutely be used in a lot of your both horizontals and verticals.
And there's one more too that, just again, kind of playing the common rival or the common opponent game. I'm looking at the 3.
Oh,
Dancing. Yeah. Okay, so Dancing All Alone, 2 starts back on the dirt, beat Take Charge Woman.
Yep.
On the square. Now, last time out, tried the grass. You can put a line right through it. We can see this horse just isn't quite as good on the turf for whatever reason. And that race was actually in a pretty tough spot against first level allowance runners on the turf. Horse was 20-1 that day. So I think she was a little overmatched, but 2 back against Take Charge Woman, she was super competitive against open 7,500 non-3s, which isn't that far away from this level. She won by 7 that day, going 7 furlongs. And when she faced Take Charge Lady, she's kind of in between horses. She moved nicely to the rail, and Take Charge Lady had to go outside. She went inside. And then the other time, or Take Charge Lady, I keep saying Take Charge Woman. I keep saying Take Charge Lady, Take Charge Woman. And then Dancing All Alone, when they faced on January the 7th, Dancing All Alone was 3rd in that race and Take Charge Woman was 2nd. So it's not like she was disgraced the other time when she got beat by her either. And again, from a stable duel standpoint, this is a type of horse who's $750, doesn't cost you anything to use in your stable duel line. Or was it 500, right?
500, 12-1, 750.
12-1, 750. Yeah, so 500. And
it has shown the ability to run right there. I mean, I noticed her as well, and I thought, the only thing that was a little worrying, I just think her top end speed figures are just not quite there with the rest of the field.
I know, you're right. Yeah,
which is odd. A little bit.
It is. You're right.
Because the placement would indicate that this is a much better horse than the speed figures would show.
And you even get Stuart Elliott jumping aboard,
right?
Which is like a major positive. So, one to keep an eye on too. That's what's kind of cool. Like, heck, even the horse, and I mean, every time I see this horse, I want to say, I'm dancing with myself, and I'm dancing with myself. If I had a chance, I'd ask the world to dance, and if I had a chance, I'd ask the world. We get to the 2. Princess Phone is another one in the contentious race. The thing about all 3 of these early races too, like the 2, I can get to this horse. This was a horse that was facing open 15 claimers in the last 2 starts on the turf and was behind Miss Aggie Bling, who's just sharp and really tough to catch. She's fast. So if she gets out front, you're not going to run her down. 3 starts back, she was behind a horse named Factual. And Factual won 3 races in a row at that point.
Yeah.
The second place finisher, Reagan's Jet, came out of that race to win a first level allowance, So you start digging in, and those races are really good. Now all of a sudden you can make excuses, right? This Factual beat Reagan's Jet. Reagan's Jet comes back in December and wins a first level allowance right out of that. So, at that point is feeling really good. And those races are live. Those races are productive. You've got the blinkers coming on. You've got Princess Phone, who actually had sort of a sneaky start last time out. What's wrong with, like the Remington race that you look down here on the dirt in December? 2020. There's nothing wrong with that race. The 7,500 on 3. Then they're off from December to November. So they come back off of a long layoff. When they run, it's on the slop. Boom. You can put a line right through that. Yep. And then we get to the first level allowance race against Factual and the next 2 on the turf. All of a sudden, you've got like 4 or 5 races where you can make excuses for. Yeah. This barn's fired with their limited stock so far at the meet. That's a cool race number 3, man. I like this.
Yeah, it is. You can go a lot of ways with this. And yeah, from a stable duel perspective, you can get a lot of cheap horses in this race if you want. I think you could talk yourself into, as we just did, you could talk yourself into quite a few.
Yep. Let's get to race number 4. We've got $5,000 claimers, and these are time restricted claimers. So these are, always want to read the conditions in races like this. These are for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up, which have not won 2 races since September the 30th. So that's the date for these time restricted claimers. Matt, who are some of the horses that you're looking at in this one?
So this is another one where the favorite, the number 5, It's Not My Job, is coming in from Louisiana, has never run in Texas before. And if you look, a lot of the recent success, state restricted races. And so that's a concern, and is coming into Sam Houston for the first time ever. And so is going to be facing Texas Company for the first time ever. So that's a little concerning. So I actually kind of like the horse to the outside, the 6, a little bit more. I think this is a horse that Rag-a-tag. The connections, like I said, don't overwhelm you necessarily in terms of kind of a hit rate or a percentage, but this is a horse that just seems to be very consistent. I like that it's breaking from the outside. This is a horse that has done well at this level. And always just kind of seems to be around, and has faced open company, and is kind of, has raced at Remington Park, has raced at Oaklawn, has raced at Sam Houston.
Those Lady Abe races.
Exactly. Has raced against some nice company. So I just, that 6 at 3-1 gives you a little bit more value. And I'm kind of fading the favorite here. It's not my job. I'm a little worried about that. Well, and so I'm looking somewhere else.
Not only is the 5, this 5-year-old mare who's done a lot of the best work against Louisiana breds, but so she's won 4 times in her 25 races. All 4 wins are at less than 5.5 furlongs.
Yeah.
You see, it's a little deceiving because they in the distance, sometimes they'll kind of put 5 and 5.5 together, or like about 5s. But when you dig into all the races, they're 5, 5, 5, and 4.5.
Yep.
5.5 might even be a little bit far for this mare. That might even be, so if this one gets pushed a little bit, let's say like you got the one who's another Broberg, but they got the rail draw, Sandy Sangria. So they may be forced a little bit from there. You got the 2, Shakalaka, who she's intriguing because her last 2 races, they're not very good, but she hasn't been even close in her grass races. She's never even shown the same type of speed on the grass as she has on the dirt. So she's likely going to be flashing a lot more speed here too. And then you got Scarlet Position, who's going to be forwardly placed here. So I'm very, very against the 5. It's Not My Job in here. If this one wins at a short price, it won't be with my money.
Yeah.
I actually thought the 3, Romantic Beast, is a bit interesting. So this barn is fantastic off the claim.
Yeah,
and it's another one of those situations, Matt, where we're not talking about like, oh, look, they were running at 40%. They're 4 of 10, right?
Right.
No,
right.
This is an 82 horse sample where they're winning at 44% and a blind $3 plus ROI for your $2 back. You just give them 2 and you get back 3. 308.
No.
Can I interest you, Matt, in the $2?
Yeah. I'll take $3 if you want to give me $3.
Yeah. And so you get the barn. That's really good. And actually, if you want to go even deeper, over the last 5 years, this barn is 27% first off the claim.
Yeah.
That's off of a huge sample. Yeah. Now, this particular horse ran into a pretty nice horse recently named Just My Imagination, who we're going to see. Just My Imagination recently won 3 in a row. So a really nice, really sharp horse that Romantic Beast ran into.
And if you look beyond that too, if you just look down all the PP, this horse runs into a lot of nice horses.
Yep.
This horse runs into a lot of next time out winners. I mean,
you got Dixie
it's
Lady.
rare to see this much italics in a PP.
Both Dixie Lady and Isolation came out of their races to win next time out. Dixie Lady was in the middle of 3 in a row and had won 4 of 5 during that stretch. So you're right. She just kept catching horses at the wrong time.
Yeah.
You know, now last time out, she drew the rail and she kind of broke out a little bit, bumped slow, and was kind of inside chasing. And the winner, Just My Imagination, was the heavy 1-2 favorite. And Dixie and Romantic Beast kind of moved sneaky in between horses. And that was going 5, chasing Lone Speed. I think the little 5.5 now, we talked about the way that we know because of It's My Job, there's going to be some speed in here, right?
Yep.
And then if this horse gets pushed by a couple others, 1 or 2 others, that would really set up for a horse like Romantic Beast, who's got a very capable jockey aboard, who's had a really sneaky good meet there, winning at a nice clip, moves off the rail. You know, in the last 4 races, you lost to Just My Imagination, and then the other 3 races were 10,000 and 15,000 beaten claiming, and this is 5,000 claiming.
Exactly. No, I like that play a lot, and I mean that's something which, you know, if for people again who don't maybe play Sam Houston that often, it is not an uncommon occurrence to see 15 to 1 morning line horses win races there. I mean, that happens usually once or twice a day. So, you know, there are some tracks where anything over 10 to 1 sometimes is pretty toxic and just is not going to work. And Sam Houston is the opposite of that. I would say, you know, it's one of the easier tracks to find value in. And I like that play a lot.
I mentioned Shakalaka too. I mean, the last time
my dad loves that horse. My dad loves Shakalaka.
Right. The last time she was on the dirt, she won.
Yeah. Yeah.
She beat an X-Out winner. Prior to that, she lost 2 back-to-back times to the same horse, Harlan's Commission.
Yep.
And
I like this. I like a lot of times when they come back from the turf too, there's kind of, it's not a perk up so much, but it's like, oh, I'm back on my preferred surface. And they tend to run a little bit stronger, a little bit better. So, you know, at 6 to 1, you're getting a little bit of value there. And so, you know, I like this horse. And the question is, you know, if you look at that last dirt race, obviously a wire to wire effort. The question is Shakalaka going to get sucked up into a speed situation? And I think that's the concern. So that's why I do like your angle of trying to find, well, let's look at some horses coming from off the pace
a little bit.
Because this could get pretty hot.
Yeah, the four has some speed, but can sit a little bit. But that's the concern with her, is that she could also get caught up. And then you got the one Sandy Sangria who gets the rail. We know It's My Job's going to go. Ragatag Tag shouldn't be far. I just kind of keep leaning on Romantic Beast as being one of the more confident I am in at least passing a couple horses late.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so again, like from Stable Duel, this would be another one that in a small field, I'd really like to use. Let's get to the 5th race. 5th race will begin the late pick 5, 12% takeout, low takeout pick 5 wagers. So I thought the 3 in here, Matt, was one that I wanted to mention.
That's the one I highlighted.
Awesome. So we got Cha. Are you supposed to say like Cha? You know,
I went Cha. That's what I'm at.
So Cha is the 4 in the race that we're going to watch last time out. And what I like about Cha was, you'll see, kind of breaks out, bumps a little bit there, kind of gets kind of crossed over on at the start, but then is able to move to the inside. And I like that there, you could see the horse is starting to travel well already. Yeah. Right? Like has a little bit of run, was kind of trying to figure out where to go, moves down towards the inside. But so now again, you're kind of waiting behind horses. You know, again, you're sort of at the mercy, but in a decent spot here. You're down in the pocket. You're not too far out of it, just a couple lengths, you know, 2-3 lengths at the most, and wanting to go right now. They want to move inside. Like this is the point when they would have made that early move to the lead, but just couldn't really do it. Couldn't really get through. And then we'll kind of wait. And right now you can see now we'll sort of get through and makes a little bit of a move and gets up close, but I think just a little flat because that was going 7 furlongs. Right. And like the same exact type of race now, cutting back to 6 furlongs, you'll have a little bit more punch. Like I liked that effort, and now you get a little tired and you fade.
Yep. No, I really like this horse. I mean, I think this is, you're getting a little bit of, I think, of a jockey upgrade at 2. We talked about Valdez Jimenez before.
Yep.
I like that. I just think this is a horse that was running against winners for the first time last time and still acquitted itself well. And like I said, I just think this is a horse that's going to give you really nice value. The other thing to point out is this horse is actually carrying 8 pounds less than several other horses in this field. So carrying a little bit less, I know there's a lot of online Twitter debate about, how much weight matters, et cetera, so on and so forth. But that is something to take note, I think, in a race like this, especially when you're getting a horse that's 10-1 morning line. I mean, again, talk about stable duel. This is, if I'm playing that game tomorrow at Sam Houston, this is a must-use horse, in my opinion, because it makes the rest of your card so much easier to build out from. So, I like Cha a lot in this spot.
I have my mom, when she plays her numbers at the track, she was a 1-3-5. This is a race where I'd be playing some of my mom's numbers.
I'm all over that 5. I love this. So emotional intel. Let's talk a little bit about that 5 for a second. So you get Alvarez on the mount, and it's a Ronnie Craven first off the claim. Craven is, Craven's he's a really good trainer. And I know Jessica Paquette, who you've had on plenty of times. We both talked to a lot. Jessica has nothing but great things to say. She always says he gets horses ready almost like nobody else. I mean, his horses look immaculate coming into the paddock. So this horse will be ready to roll 6-1. What I like about this horse is this horse came in from Turfway Park, was running on synthetic, comes to Sam Houston.
Figure out where they fit, right?
Exactly. Comes to Sam Houston, gets in the dirt, breaks its maiden. And I go, okay, this is something. Now we can build off something here. And so this is a horse that just seems to be maybe trending the right direction. I like this horse a little bit at a 6-1 price. That's very reasonable. So, and might not get bet down too much, actually. So you might get a decent price on this horse. But I like that 5.
Yeah. And the horse to beat.
The
funny thing about the one is it was another instance where on December the 30th, in that race that she won, she was down on the inside in post 2, and she had like a good start, and then she was able to shoot up the inside, and that was the difference between winning and losing. She got the lead. She kind of battled at the top of the lane, and she was able to draw off and win. And so, same sort of thing here. If she's drawn to the inside in all 3 races, and you'll notice the races where she wasn't close, she had a tough time.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of trip that you get where you're like, you're sprinting, you get shuffled back, and then you got to wait. And then maybe you move outside or maybe you move inside, and you're behind horses, you're behind traffic. It's not easy.
No, it's not. So no, and you just never know with the inside post is just, especially in sprints, I just feel is always just such, not necessarily a crapshoot, but it can be such an equalizing force. And whenever I see a favorite drawing the inside, unless they just have overwhelming speed, I just kind of go, I'm going to look somewhere else for maybe the winner in this race. So the other thing I'll mention about Cha really quickly is, if you look, one thing I noted about this horse is actually was, for the level of this field, a pretty expensive horse. Worth $45,000. So there was some level of expectation with this horse.
When they debuted at a maiden special weight at Woodbine, for Wesley Ward.
So this was a horse that had some expectations at one point, maybe hasn't quite lived up to it, but is not a bad horse by any stretch of the imagination. And like I said, I just, there's some class there in this horse.
I agree. Cha, and kind of, you go through Cha, and you can say, okay, so this horse doesn't really. So we just watched the 4th, and the race was a little bit better than what it might have suggested, right? Like if you just looked at it and you're like, 4th beaten 5, okay. But watching the race, it was pretty good, right? It was a pretty good effort for the level. And so now 2 starts back, this horse was a winner. 3 starts back, they tried the turf. Okay, didn't let the turf chuck it. Now 4 starts back, that was the race that sent this horse to the bench for a while. So anytime there's a race that sends a horse off for a little bit, I'm always willing to chuck it or make an excuse. Now you can put a line through that race. Okay, wow, now we've crossed out 2 races. There are 5 where this horse has been in the money in 3 of 7, and the other 2 are maybe better than they look on paper. One of them was legitimate trouble at Churchill Downs when having, this is how I handicap. Yep. Like I go through these races and I'm looking at why did those horses not run well. I'm always looking for reasons to play these types of horses and reasons not to play the short price horses. And I think far too many people kind of do it the opposite way. They'll be like, this horse is 20-1, like they have no shot. I'm looking at why they do have a shot. Yeah. I want to try to find the reason why. And then why the 6-5 or 2-1 horse is not worth it.
Yep, absolutely.
We can find 2-1s or 5-2s that we like anywhere, any day.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Time, right.
No, and there are some on this card, and we've talked about a few of them already. I mean, there are some horses where you just go, we're going to play that one up top, that's just, and we're going to move on. You take your medicine and you move on.
You don't try to get too cute, but
no.
Yeah. Fun conversation as we continue on through the Sam Houston card. Thanks so much for hanging out. Anytime, I'd love, I get so caught up and I get the blinkers on and we start talking. Anyone that's ever out there that's hanging out, if we're talking about a race and you've got an opinion on a horse, or you want to comment, or if there's something that we missed that you want, or if you want me to pull up a race, or if you want us to look at a chart, feel free, throw a comment in there. I'd love to help you out in any way we can. Actually, let's give a little plug for the DRF, because I know they still have like 2 weeks left of their cool promotion that they have, where you can get, how about this, Matt? I'll give you $250 and you give me back $510 and 10 free formulator cards right off the bat.
That's a good deal for you.
I know. And then following that, every time you bet another 50, you get credit for another formulator card. So this promotion will last all the way through April 15th. So the next couple of weeks, when you're looking at the Florida Derby and the big racing coming up, you got to make sure you head the DRF and you can get these formulator past performances. Formulator means they're the type of past performances that we're looking at. They're the ones that give you the opportunity to click for the replay, 1 click to the chart, 1 click to the pedigree info, 1 click to the trainer stats. It saves you so much time when you're handicapping, and it's kind of fun, like we're doing right here. You click on one thing, and then all of a sudden a chart pulls up, and it sort of leads you down a rabbit hole. Absolutely. Sometimes. Yep. It's a ton of fun. So big shout out, DRF Formulator Past Performances. That's where I'm always heading. And every time we do our live streams here, we're very lucky to be using the daily racing form Past Performances. So the weather for Wednesday, Matt, going to give a shout out to Frank Hopp. He did a great job over there. It looks like it's supposed to rain early in the morning. Yep. And then it's supposed to stop. So they've carded 2 grass races, and those 2 grass races are both in the late part of the card. So that way, in case it does rain, the early part of the card won't really be impacted. There'll be plenty of time to see, okay, you know what? It's pouring. We'll just take the late pick 5 off the turf, right? There's 2 races there. And if it's close, they'll have some opportunity, and maybe they can squeeze these races on the grass. I'm sure they try to love to get as much on the grass with only 7 days remaining as possible. So let's, just for talking purposes, of course, we're going to talk about this race like it is on the turf. Where do you want to start?
So I'm actually, I think we can, there's kind of 2 horses that come to mind. And so we'll start with the 2, who's the kind of, I think the favorite at 5-2.
Yeah.
And what I'll just,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. But what I'll say is this horse over a mile is less reliable.
You're right.
And this
flattens out a little bit,
empty a little bit. And this is something you and I talk about with Barry a lot on Fridays. Some horses are just milers. I mean, and it is so distinct to a mile, because sprint horses, you can go 6.5, you can go 7, you can go 5 sometimes, etc. You go over a mile, they go a mile and a 16th, mile and an 1/8. All right. When you find a horse that's a genuine miler, they just, you take them a half furlong off that one direction or the other, it all falls apart. I mean, so I just have a feeling this horse is so much better to mile, and I'm just a little worried about a horse that's stretching out to a mile and a 16th here.
Especially at a short price, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's 5-2, and I just don't love it with that. So the horse that intrigues me, and I don't know, this horse is a big price, but is the 6, Conviction Trade.
Yeah.
And because I have no questions about distance with this horse can more than do the distance. This horse runs 1.5 miles. So this is a horse that can absolutely do a mile and a 16th.
Yep.
Has run up against far better.
Yep.
And is now kind of dropping down in class. Obviously has not been able to compete, not been able to do quite as well at that higher level.
That horse, Perfect Star, is in really nice form. This race that they came out of last time out, this Perfect Star race was really good.
Yeah.
Perfect Star has won 3 in a row. This is a horse who they thought was good way down, a while back, and just sort of took a while to figure the class out and where they belong. Carly's Dream is another one that you can go back to, and you can see some really competitive races in here with Stakes Company, stakes winner there against Louisiana breds. You get the Sunlit Song down here, who is a nice one and has been an excellent Texas bred over the last couple of years. Sunlit Song, unfortunately, had a little bit of an issue. They had to miss the big Texas Champions Day last week. Tut's Revenge is another one that you've seen in, with legitimate Stakes Company. And that was just an allowance race.
Yeah.
Last out.
Yeah. And I think this is, going back to Conviction Trade. I mean, this is a horse that has run up against, you look at some of his previous efforts. You're looking at horses like, 40 Under and Colonel Liam and Fantasioso. And, there's a bunch of really nice horses in your value proposition. So this is a horse that's running up against really, really nice horses. Won 3 races back. I think, if it can get this at the kind of roughly this level, I think if you can go back and get that type of a run at 15-1, you get Lane Luzzy aboard. He's been aboard the last few times now. It's a J.R. Caldwell horse. Again, a pretty respectable barn there at Sam Houston. So at 15-1, I have a feeling this horse will get bet down a lot by post, just because people will look at the previous class and the connections and, wow, this horse was in a graded stakes race, et cetera. Now look at it. So I do think in a field where I have a lot of questions about distance, I was kind of drawn to this horse because I don't have those questions about Conviction Trade.
Okay. I like a bomb in here too, towards the outside. So if this race is on the turf, this is the horse that I'm looking at a little bit, Barrister Tom. So
okay. Yep.
Barrister Tom's last 3 races have been on the synthetic over at Turfway. So I think it's safe to say that, this horse hasn't really run very well on the synthetic in those 3 races. Let's toss them. Let's put a line right through them. Let's go back to this horse's last race on the turf. It was in October of 2021, and it was coming off of a long layoff, hadn't raced since May, and was going 5.5 furlongs, where I just don't know if that's what this horse wants to do.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think 5.5 is the best. So Barrister Tom is the 5 in this race that we're going to watch right here. And he actually has a really good start. Like, he's right there with these sprinters. But the problem is that they're trying to figure out what to do right now. And it's like, should we stay close up? Right now, he's in between. So he doesn't want to get caught up with all 4 of them. So now you want to try to back out of that spot. But now you're in really tight. You're kind of in between and up on the heels. So you got to keep backing up.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, that like really nice positioning that you had, you're all the way back. And again, there's a horse that's got you pinned to the outside. You can't go anywhere because the 7's right in front of you. And you're going to run right up on this horse's heels. You can't really duck to the inside because there's a horse next to you. You're going to cut them off. So you're just sort of trapped in between waiting. And now it's sort of like, okay, now you're backed up and you're a little bit flat. And this was that first start in a while. You actually see the 5 start to actually run pretty well.
Yeah, he's keeping on.
And this is sprinting where, again, I just don't think this is what they wanted to do. This was the first start between May and October. And since then, we've had 3 consecutive races on the synthetic. Heck, just go back and look at what Barrister Tom was doing. The first time they went long on the turf, they won. Then they won a stakes race at Kentucky Downs. They thought enough of this horse to put him in against graded stakes races, against Graded Stakes Company right after that. They were in the Bourbon against Mutasabek. They were in the American Turf on Kentucky Derby undercard day against Du Jour. That race comes up so strong every year. The Transylvania at Keeneland. I mean, those are legitimate races that this horse was in competing. And I think it's just buried because that form was back there. This is another one in Stable Duel. Like, This stable duel lineups on Wednesday, I have a lot of these type of horses, and just throwing this one in like a late pick 4, if this race is on the grass, from a class standpoint, we know that they can stack up pretty well going long on the turf. Hasn't been on the turf since. Give me Barrister Tom. Just like Diego is a very solid rider.
Yeah, he is.
Also, like super capable, has had a nice meeting. He's been right around like 15% or so in that range. The 9 Barrister Tom should offer you a little bit of value. So I think this is another one of those races where the one thing you may take from both of us is that, Metro Pool, well, if I was playing an exacta or a try or a super, I would use that horse, but I'm not going to go bet them to win at 2-1 or 5-2 in here.
No, I would not. And even Fred's Twirling Candy, who's 3-1, I also have some questions about distance. This horse has never won at the distance. And so again, I'm just like, so I look at the 2 favorite. Now, the one thing I'll say that might work to their advantage is there is no pace in this race.
Very little.
And that they might be able to crawl around the track, and that extra half furlong is not going to hurt them. That's actually a little bit of the reason why I like Conviction Trade. I think Conviction Trade, when it's run well, when he's run well, he's gotten to the lead.
Especially with Luzzy, who can do that plenty of
And that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Lane sees this, and it's just going to be super aggressive with him. And he might just be able to get on an easy lead. And with this horse having experience going long, should have enough in the tank coming for home. But I do like I like your play. The other horse I'll just shout out very quickly is the number 7 Midas Cat.
Yes.
This is a horse that I wish this race had more pace.
Me too.
Because I would really like the 7 in that case. Because the 7's got a solid turn of foot, but it's just such a deep closer that I just worry there's not going to be the pace for the 7 to run into. And otherwise, there's a lot to like about the 7.
Like,
I think,
all of his races all make sense too when you look at his form. So he didn't run from March of 2021 to January of 2022. So he needed that race when he finished 5th, and it really wasn't all that bad. And then he took a big step forward when he won at Open 10 Claimer, and he stepped up, and that was a tough race, and he was 3rd behind Perfect Star, who came back to win. So I agree. I that's the problem with him just on the win end, is that his running style sort of leaves him at the mercy of racing luck. But if the 4 was one that I thought was at least even kind of fun, worth mentioning. 3rd start off the long layoff. Those last 2 races were not bad.
No.
Could take a step forward here. And there's a little bit of tactical speed with this horse. Like, if they don't go that fast early, maybe he's one that can be kind of hanging around in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, he can stalk. I think for sure. Yeah.
Seductive USA. So if this race for some reason does come off the turf, the 2 horses that I would upgrade would be towards the outside. I think the 5 would be one that you for sure want to upgrade. Sarcastic Tone. And then towards the outside, the 8, Nate's Attack is one whose dirt form is some of the better dirt form. Not a win machine, but has faced some pretty tough runners. And Implicator would be the other. I think, like, dirt wise, would I'd imagine they'd probably be pretty tough in here. So let's get to the late pick 3, Matt. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. Just 7 racing days remain at Sam Houston, one of my personal favorite tracks to play, because they give us the option for the low takeout wagers, doubles, pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s, pick 6s. We can play a low takeout pick 3 to close out the card. And we have a first level allowance race here. And I will say, it's not the strongest race for this level.
Right.
It's kind of, and what's interesting about it is, like, I guess from a talking point for me, there's very little speed for like a 6 furlong sprint.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And the one that's probably the horse to catch is this horse. But, he's got some questions and some concerns also.
I mean, this horse coming off a layoff, which preceded another layoff. I'm always skeptical when I see those lines really close together. I just, what am I going to get out of this horse this time out? And again, this is a horse that, again, you look, a lot of it, success, state restricted races. You look outside the state restricted races,
not much,
not great. Yeah. The form's not awesome. And so at 3-1, I'm going to look elsewhere, outside of this horse.
Yeah. Takes 2 to tango. The race probably goes through him, but I ended up leaning, Matt, with the 8.
Okay. I like the 8 a lot. Yeah.
Gushing Oil.
That's logical to me. Yeah.
You can put a line right through the Springboard Mile. and say that they were just in too tough that day back in December of 2020 behind Senor Buscador. And then, absolutely needed the race in February, early February, not having raced for, that type of a layoff. And then took a nice step forward, second start off the bench. One of the horses who they defeated last time out, Brock on Bye, has come out of that race and has won back-to-back races. Now 15 non-2 and then 25 non-3. So I think there's a lot of nice running style too for the horse to kind of sit close. Lots of positives for me for a horse that's 6-1.
I like Gushing Oil quite a bit. That was my second choice. So I 6-1 makes a lot of sense. It's another Renee Diaz, who's on the mount for that. So you're getting a little bit of a weight, allowance as well, or a little bit of a lighter weight because he was a apprentice. So I do like that 8 play a lot. The one I ended up gravitating to is the 6, Mr. K, at 4-1. And not great value, but you're getting a little bit better value than the top 2. And the other one that we haven't even talked about is Release the Beast, the 9, who's 2. Again, a lot of success at the state restricted in Louisiana. So I kind of am out on that horse. So the 6, Mr. K, that was one I just has faced Open Company regularly, winner of the last 2. And what I really liked was made the transition already from Delta to Sam Houston and won at Sam Houston. And so a lot of times I think when you see that past performances, I always have questions about those, imports coming in straight from Delta, Evangeline,
are they a specialist?
Yeah. Are they a specialist? Or is it a horse for a course there? What's going on? And so I love that made the transition, won at the Delta, came into Sam Houston, won at Sam Houston, and has competed well at the allowance level. And so, like I said, a lone start with Sam Houston was last time out, which was a win. So I think at 4-1, you get a little bit of value there with Mr. K. But I absolutely like the 8 underneath. I mean, that's one I like playing exacta boxes a lot of times. So that's like a 6-8 exacta box for me. I like those top 2 quite a bit.
There's another one that I think's a bit intriguing here. At a little bit of a price, the 2. So Frank the Mare is going to go into the Broberg barn. And now it's just faced 5,000 non-4. So you might say, okay, is this race a little too tough? But honestly, when you go back and look at where this horse was against First Level Allowance Company, was always pretty competitive. I mean, in May of 2021 and in June at Evangeline, those races are not bad against First Level Allowance runners. Those races would stack up well. In August at Evangeline, finishing 3rd behind 2 horses that both came back to win next out. Those races would stack up. And then 3 times in a row went on the turf. And even if we're just talking from a class standpoint, the races on the grass against First Level Allowance Company weren't bad. This horse was 3rd, only beaten a length and 3/4, was 4th in another one in a field of 10, but not disgraced at all. Lost to a horse named Old Indian Trick in a First Level Allowance, who was the next out winner there. So, Frank the Mare, stable duel, right? 15-1. Goncalves and Broberg cost you less than 1,000, nothing to use in your stable duel lineup. We've said that about how many times on Wednesday. Right. And honestly, just from our discussion standpoint, right? I love playing the races at Santa Anita. I do work with Santa Anita. I put in picks for Santa Anita, a couple selections every day. But comparing the difference between horses that I feel like I can make cases for at big prices here versus at Santa Anita, if there's a horse that's got even an ounce of a chance, they're 5-1 or under, you know, unless it's a big day where there's a field of 12, it's really hard to find bigger prices. And it feels like in every race that we've talked about now, 7 through, there's at least 1 or 2 horses that we've gone, you know what, that horse you can make, if you want to take a shot against the favorite, that one you could feel pretty confident with.
I do. I think this is it's a pretty wide open card. And I noticed that right from the first race, actually. I was like, this is a pretty salty field. You could go in a lot of different directions here, depending on how it plays out. You're very competitive. Yep. So, this is one where you could build a stable for $20,000 instead of $50,000.
Yeah. Put a line 2 starts back through the race for Frank the Mare when they stumbled. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, the form's not that bad overall.
No, not that bad.
Yeah, we see Broberg do this all the time. He claims horses for 5, steps them up, wins a First Level Allowance, and then he drops them back in for 5 or for 10. He'll drop them right back in because he already made his money. And then you wonder, you're like, is there something wrong with this horse? Why is he dropping them? But no, he's just being aggressive. And so then he'll like he'll like out poker you, like you'll outthink yourself. You'll be like, there must be a reason why he's dropping this horse back down. It's like, well, it's just because he already won his money, and he knows that if he puts him in here, wins the purse and gets the claiming money, boom, like that's how they operate at the lower levels like that. And they're just so good on the margins. So, that's race number 7, first level allowance that kicks off the late pick 3. Let's get to the late daily double, Matt. We've got Texas bred maiden 15 claimers in race number 8. Tell us where you want to start here.
So this is an interesting one. There's not a lot that I love in this race, but I'll go to the 9. Actually, I'll go to the far outside, Giovanni's Heat at 5-1.
Yeah.
This is a horse that is intriguing to me.
Yeah,
because it goes kind of back to the old adage, which is, pick the horse with the least experience when you don't necessarily love a lot of the others. And so this is kind of where you're at in this race, where it's like, there's not a lot of great stuff with some of the favorites. Goncalves is a nice jockey. Danny Pish, good trainer there. That opening, again, if you look, that's an opening company, maiden claiming race, first time
and that's
out.
a lot tougher than this spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot tougher than this spot. So, and if you look, one of the few horses that's competed at open maiden claiming races. And so you'd expect to see an improvement from race 1 to race 2. And so, like I said, it's going to be carrying a little bit of less weight this time, stretching out. But these two, when they team up, Goncalves and Pish are hitting at a 19% clip. I like the far outside post position in the 7 furlong sprint. So I'm going to take a shot at the 5-1 Giovanni's Heat, just because I think this horse might actually be dropping in class into this field a little bit. And so I'm just not too overwhelmed by anybody else.
Yeah. I'm looking for some value here too. I mean, the 3 is the horse to beat.
Yep.
Noah, coming off that runner-up effort last time out, Noah's been pretty close. You're going to go 3rd start of the form cycle. So that's probably the one they'll all have to worry about. Stuart Elliott sticks. I wanted to see a little bit more from Cash and Time last time. I don't mind the cutback. So I do think that should help. I actually think Forest is a little interesting here. So Forest in the debut raced against open maiden special weights. And then came back in career start number 2. And you know what? It wasn't that bad of an effort early on. I think it was a little bit better than it might have just looked on paper. So Forest is the number 4 in here. This race is actually a pretty tough race. The winner of this race, Klimko, is not a bad Texas bred. So we're looking at Forest, who's the number 4, who's, going to settle in behind horses, kind of took out of a spot and sort of moves behind. And if they just sit and show something just like this against a much softer group, like they're probably going to be in a decent spot. Like I didn't mind where this horse was settling, kind of looking for somewhere to go. You got a wall of horses in front, try to angle to the outside. This was the first start from September to March. And so it's like a little something here. And I thought all the horses in front were just a little bit better, trying to move through some traffic. And a major positive is that Valdez Jimenez decides to keep the faith. Yeah. Like we said, one of the top jocks at the meet is going to keep the faith. So you'll put 2 starts together for a horse who's dropping in class, who's got some upside in a race where, we don't love anyone and we're looking for some value and some price. Yeah. Forest.
I like it.
I mean, how many puns can we go with this way, right? I was going to say, like, I just felt like running, obviously what I was going to go with. But that's one of those movies, too. What a fantastic movie. I mean, it's so, like, you watch it, you don't realize how damn good that movie is. It's so
and the best part about that movie is you can pick up at any point, because it's really vignettes. It's not really a movie.
It's like a clip. It's like a montage.
It's almost, it's a movie that was really ahead of its time in some way, because you can just sit down and watch like 8 minutes and be like, oh, that was really rewarding. Yep. I'm going to, Forrest in college. Great. Yeah. Oh, Forrest at the Olympics. Cool. Oh, Forrest doing this. Like, Forrest at Bubba. Yeah. Great. Like the 20 minutes. Like, you don't even have to invest the whole it's not like a remote drop as much as like it's a remote just stays in your hand until the scene you like is over, and then you like just move on. So
good.
Yeah, it is.
So good. I stacked them 5, 9, 3, 4. So we're very similar. I think if you're playing like pick fours and stuff, Giovanni's Heat's a must use on any sort of your late exotics too. Tons of upside with that one.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you so much for hanging out with us, man. Let's finish up.
Yeah.
We got one more race to go. Race number 9, maiden special weights, going 1 mile and a 16th. Now, as we mentioned, this race is carded for the turf. Possibility that they could be off the grass if it does rain, but we will discuss like they are on the turf. And I had Fayette Blue last time in rolling exotics, and Fayette Blue crossed the wire first and got DQ'd, flashing some speed. And it was one of those instances where, you know, it was tough because she was probably the best, but she definitely did come over.
Yeah.
So was probably deserved to come down that day. She's going to be flashing some speed. Rye Eckleberry jumps aboard, but you'll have, I think, the 1, Colonel ABY take some money. The 2, the 3 will probably get a little bit of support. Who are some of you looking at? Like if you're playing a pick 4, pick 5, how would you want to close this thing out?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I want to include the 2 just because even though the horse didn't get the win, I think, you know, we've talked about this before. Psychologically, horses get used to winning and like crossing the finish line first. Yeah. And so to see Fayette Blue do that is impressive. And so, especially when you're talking about a maiden race where a lot of horses have been trying for a while to win, this horse did. And it got taken down, and understandably so. But I kind of like coming back with this horse in this spot a little bit. And you're not getting bad value at 9-2.
No.
And the blinkers are coming off. So I do wonder if they're going to try to hold back a little bit to try to make sure that this horse doesn't get caught up in speed on the front end. So I kind of like that move a little bit.
Fayette Blue, for me, is a must-use in late exotics, late pick 4s and pick 5s and stuff. The horse who maybe a little sneaky for me is the 6, Wyoming, who I mean, I'm just looking at the pattern for Wyoming. The first time they were on the turf, was back in March of 2021, and then they dropped in class, and they went off, and they were off for a long layoff. And the last 2 races have been much improved. This horse should be forwardly placed in a race where there's not all that much speed. Third start of the form cycle, third start off the long layoff. They can just take one small step forward on the grass. That's pretty close to competing with most in here. Like if Colonel ABY shows up and runs some of those races like she ran at Keeneland or at Churchill, then they'll probably win this race. But they're not consistent enough, and they'll be a very short price.
I also like right above this. I like the 5 a little bit here too. I think Forever Home's a nice, 5-1. It's a nice price as well. And this is a horse that had a really long layoff. About 6 months or so. Comes back and runs 2 really strong races on the turf, from that layoff, a second and a third. And so I just think this is a horse that's, and what's interesting is they were running this horse at maiden claimers before the layoff, comes back after the layoff running maiden special weights, and the horse is actually running better. So I feel like this horse has either gotten healed or they figured something out, or I feel like this horse is something's clicked with this horse because this horse is going against better competition and running better now than it did before.
And I promise you she'll win today because I needed her so bad in this spot last time. And she was, and man, she was 5-1, and she's the 5 that we're looking at.
Yep.
And she was getting such a perfect trip.
Yep.
And that's what's nice about her is that she's versatile, right? She can work herself out a trip like this. She can sit back a little farther. You can tell she wants to go.
Yeah.
She's feeling so good right now. She's just sitting third, right to the outside. The only thing is this trip doesn't work as well on the turf as it does on the dirt, just sitting a little bit wide like that. Normally, this is exactly where you want to be on the dirt. This is still a pretty good spot. And I thought right here, I'm just counting my money. She's sitting, and when she moves, like right here, it's like, man,
here she goes. Yeah.
How far is she going to win this race by? And I think she just sort of like waits on horses when she hits the front. Like right here, she doesn't know what to do. She's going to win this race by 10, right?
Yep.
I mean, doesn't it look like she's just going to crush this field? And she just sort of stops right here. Her tail starts swishing around.
Yep.
She just doesn't really respond when they ask. And then when the 4 comes up, you could tell now she kind of starts to get determined again and battle back. But the problem was she sort of lost all of her momentum right there. And she got it like kind of jumpy late, but man, she's hard for me to leave out. She's going to loom up again, and she'll go third start off the bench, and she'll be right there forever home in, again, like this is a good card for
because I think the 3 Hourglass Figure is an interesting horse as well. That's a horse that seemed to really like stretching out last time. So I think the added distance won't be an issue. And I think, the trainer, Carrie Craddock, wins a 23% clip at maiden special weights.
Very capable.
So very capable. So yeah, I'd probably go a little deep on this last one if I was playing, kind of a pick 3, pick 4. So I definitely include, for me at least, the 2, 3, and 5. For me,
the 4 even. You have this race at Gulfstream Park. That's not bad to look at. You've got these Gulfstream Saratoga races where you're like, these races against maiden claimers there are pretty comparable to the maiden special weights over here. So that probably stacks up well. And maybe now. Last race didn't run well, but that was on the slop at Oaklawn sprinting. So this is way different now, stretching back out, going long on the turf. And we talked about Cravens, these connections, both having sort of a really quietly good meet, really, really nice. Mother's Day Jewel ends a fun Wednesday card at Sam Houston. Matt, buddy, thank you so much for hanging out. And you and I are going to be back on Thursday night at around 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to dive into the Saturday card for Gulfstream, which, oh man, that is going to be a fantastic card. It's the major, last major prep there at Gulfstream Park with the Florida Derby. And you're going to get a chance to see probably 3 horses, I'd say, that'll be in the Kentucky Derby there. And I think White Barrio's going to be coming back. Then we see Classic Causeway. Going to be heading out there also. So, really cool
simplification, and then we got Charge It, the other Pletcher horse, and so it's going to be a really nice field, and it's kind of cool. And I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know when's the last time you had the winner of the Holy Bull, the Fountain of Youth, and the Tampa Bay Derby all go up against each other in the Florida Derby.
I know.
I feel like that doesn't happen that often. That there's 3 different winners and 3. And then they all come back and race in this spot. So it's like, even no matter who, somebody's going to be the king of Florida on Saturday. Whether they go on to win the Kentucky Derby, who knows? But somebody's going to have bragging rights in the Sunshine State.
Well, who might be co-kings of Florida on Saturday might be Matt and me when we take down that Florida Derby contest for Stable Duel. You and me, baby. Maddie, $60 to get into that Florida Derby contest on Saturday. We'll tell you all about it on Thursday night. So come hang out with us Thursday night. Set your alarms for 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go live right on Twitter. Matt, my friend, you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thank you so much, buddy. And everyone, hope you all have a great one. Good luck in all of your wagers. And we'll be back later on this week with more great content.